Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are digging into something really fascinating, a brand new management framework that was literally built from the ground up for the world we live in now. A world where AI is basically a coworker and sustainability isn't just a buzzword. It's called the Honey Badger Management Framework. And yeah, it might just flip the script on how we get things done. So let me just ask you this straight up. Is your team's playbook feeling a little, obsolete? I mean, even with all the buzz around Agile, a lot of us are discovering that the old ways of working just weren't designed for the sheer speed and complexity we're facing today. All right, let's get into the heart of the problem here. The real issue is that our current frameworks, I'm talking everything from the super traditional stuff to the most popular Agile methods, they were never built to handle the two massive shifts happening in business right now: integrating AI as a true team member and the absolute necessity of ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance compliance.
And this slide just lays out that tension perfectly, doesn't it? Over on the left, you've got your traditional frameworks like PMP. They're structured, they're planned, but they're brittle. They just shatter when things change fast. Then on the right, you have agile methods like Scrum. Super flexible, yeah, but they have these huge blind spots. They have no formal way to treat AI like a teammate, and ESG is kind of an afterthought, not a core principle.
So, to plug those gaps, a totally new framework has been put forward, one designed from day one for these new realities. And yeah, it's called the Honey Badger Management Framework, or HBMF for short.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of HBMF as a new agile operating system for teams made up of both people and AI. It takes the speed of really short sprints, mixes in the clarity of having defined leaders, and, this is the crucial part, it builds ESG compliance right into its DNA. The whole thing is about making smart calls when you honestly don't know what's coming next.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. The goal here isn't just to use AI as another piece of software. It's about creating a true synergy, a place where human know-how and AI's power come together to create something way bigger than either could do alone. Okay, so that's the big picture. But how does this thing actually work on the ground? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the core components of the framework.
All right, here are the key ingredients. First, you have these incredibly short sprints that you can actually cancel. Then you've got super clear leadership roles. AI integration, it's mandatory, not just a nice to have. It also has this really interesting idea of competing internal subteams to really spark innovation. And of course, ESG is baked right in, with everything held together by very specific, structured meetings.
So first up in those leadership roles is the manager. You can think of this person as the strategist. They're the one defining the what and the why. What are we actually building and why does it matter? They set the destination, they chop up the big goals into bite-sized tasks, and they make sure everything the team does actually lines up with the company's bigger vision.
And working alongside the manager is the guru. Now, if the manager is the what and why, the guru is all about the how. This person is like the guardian of the process. They make sure the team is actually following the HBMF playbook, they help knowledge get passed around smoothly, and they're in charge of keeping those real-time dashboards up to date so everyone knows what's going on. And this right here, this is a really key feature that kind of defines the whole vibe of the framework. Sprints are just 7 days, 1 week. But here's the real kicker. If the goals aren't being met, you can just cancel the sprint. This is pure Honey Badger thinking. It's about being pragmatic, cutting your losses early, and avoiding that classic sunk cost fallacy, right? That trap where you keep throwing good effort after bad just because you already started. Okay, so we've looked at the individual pieces. Now let's put it all together and see how HBMF really stacks up against the playbooks most of us are using right now. This is where you can really see just how different the approach is. I mean, this table says it all. Look at that top row for HBMF. You've got clear leadership, you've got that intense agility from the cancelable sprints, but now look at those last two columns. For PMP and Scrum, AI and ESG are either not there at all or they're just not core to how the system works. For HBMF, they are fundamental. They are core requirements. That is the game-changing difference. So let's just zoom in on the 5 things that make HBMF completely unique. First, AI isn't just a tool, it's a mandatory team member. Second, you have this idea of competing subteams to really push performance and creativity. Third, you've got that dual accountability. The guru watches the process, the manager drives the strategy. Fourth, teams have to formally declare what they don't know, which is an amazing way to foster learning. And finally, all that transparency is directly tied into the company's ESG strategy. So, what does this all mean for how we're all going to work in the future? Is this the new gold standard? Well, let's get real and weigh the potential upsides against some of the challenges you definitely need to think about before jumping in.
Okay, let's look at the advantages first. The risk mitigation is huge. I mean, with 1-week sprints, you just can't get that far off track before you have a chance to pivot. And that focus on declaring what you don't know, that builds an incredible learning culture. But on the flip side, there are real challenges. The upfront cost for AI can be a big deal. That internal competition, if you don't manage it just right, could get pretty toxic. And look, this takes commitment. It needs dedicated resources for a guru and for keeping those dashboards running.
Which brings us right back to our final question. This framework is, well, it's relentless. It's pragmatic. It's incredibly adaptive, just like the animal it's named after. It is absolutely purpose-built for a complex future. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Is your team ready for a honey badger? Thanks so much for tuning in.